today's lecture. Myself, Assistant Professor Tukur Gupta from Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College. The lecture series that I am covering is for the subject Embedded System with the subject code KOE 062, and it is being taught as the open elective in the third year. The today's lecture topic is Embedded Firmware Development Environment, that is EDLC objectives and phases. So, let us go into details. What is EDLC? EDLC means Embedded Product Development Life Cycle. It is an analysis, design, implementation based standard problem solving approach for embedded product development. Why these three terms, that is analysis, design and implementation? Because whenever we are ought to design any of the product, any of the embedded system product, then we need to perform these operations. What are these phases? This is analysis, that is we have to analyze the need of the product to be developed, we have to analyze the demand of the market. So, after that only we can decide whether the product that we are going to design is beneficial or not. Next is the design, that is we have, after finalizing the concept of the product, we have to think about the design, that how will the product look like, what will be the size, what will be the weight, what will be the cost investment in that, whether it will be able to fulfill the needs of the customer or not. Next is the implementation. After the design phase, the implementation phase comes, that is we have to implement the product finally, we have to give a shape to the product. So, whatever we have thought, whatever the thought process we have gone through, we have to finalize it. So, that is the implementation. So, basically whenever we talk about any of the embedded product development product, that is, so we have to go through all these three phases, that is analysis, design and implementation. So, that is why EDLC, that is the embedded product development life cycle, is the life cycle of the development of any of the embedded product. So, in any of the product development application, what we all consider, that what product needs to be developed, as I have already discussed, that this is the analysis part. What will be the best approach for building it, that is the design, what will be the requirement of the area, what will be the cost, what will be the what should be the weight. Suppose we are talking about the handheld devices. So, we are developing any of the handheld device or the personal digital assistants we can say. So, obviously it should not be large enough, it should be portable, it should be very lightweight also. Also the cost always matters in any of the product development. So, all these design implementations have to be given a thought. So, next is to develop it, that is the implementation. So, finally after deciding all the factors before implementation, finally we have to give the shape to the product. So, these are the various phases during the development of any embedded product. Now, EDLC is based on these three phases we have already discussed. So, finally, how can we define any EDLC product, that is that EDLC is any analysis, design, implementation based problem solving approach for embedded product development. So, analysis involves understanding, design involves what approach we are going to use in the development of the product, and finally the implementation. Now, when we talk about the need of EDLC, and so basically what we what is the need of this, of studying this embedded product development life cycle? Why are we thinking about this life cycle? Why we are talking about, why we are discussing about this life cycle? So, during the development of any of the product, until and unless we go through the phases that a product is going to see during its development, we cannot finalize the product, we cannot make any of the product, because at each and every step, at each and every phase, we have to face some issue or the other. So, until and unless we know all the phases of the life cycle of the product development, we cannot develop a best product, we cannot develop the desired product. So, EDLC is essential for understanding the scope, that is the facilities and complexity of the work involved in embedded systems development. As I have already told that until and unless we know the different phases, we know the different problems or the issues, the challenges we will come across when we are developing any product, we cannot think of developing a best product out of it. So, we have to go through the life cycle, we have to study this life cycle of the embedded product. It is used for any developing embedded product. EDLC defines interaction and activities among various groups of the product development phase. So, this is what the EDLC talks about. It is basically it is the interaction and the activities among the various phases, among the various groups of product phases. So, the project management, system design, these are all the examples of the different phases which a product goes through. So, in this diagram we can see that here the verification is this and this is the validation part. So, in the verification part, requirement gathering is there, system analysis is there, software designing, then module designing. So, these are all the verification part, and when we validate all this, finally after the coding. So, we all know that embedded product, if we are talking about the embedded product, that is the combination of the hardware and software. So, this is always universal, that any of the embedded product is a combination of the two things, that is the hardware and software. So, first of all we will think about the need, then we will analyze the need, we will analyze the design, then we will give a final shape to the product. So, this coding is very important, because without the software part, the hardware cannot be implemented. So, after this there is the testing part. So, the requirement gathering is tested through acceptance testing, system analysis is tested through system testing, software design is with the integration testing, module designing is unit testing. So, we have to test each and every module. So, this is the validation part. So, in this way the verification and the validation side by side gives the final product. Now, what are the objectives of EDLC? So, EDLC has three primary objectives: ensuring the high quality of the product, risk minimization and the defect prevention through management, and last is the maximize the productivity. So, ensuring the high quality of the product, what does this mean? So, the product is said to be profitable only if the turnover that we get from the selling of the product is more than the actual investment that we have put in the product development. So, for this the product should be acceptable by the end user. So, this is very important factor, that the product should be acceptable by the end user, should meet all the requirements placed by the end user, and in terms of quality, reliability and functionality. So, these are the basic requirements that the end user will place for the product development, that the quality, reliability and the functionality should be achieved as it is, which have been placed by the end user. So, this is what the quality of the product means, that it is a return on investment, that is ROI, that is in technical terms, achieved by the product. The various expenses that are incurred in the product development, these can be categorized as initial investment. So, there are certain investments that have to be put initially, not during all the phases of the product development, but the initial investment is there, and which is actually very important. Maybe it is high, but it is only for the initial phase and a very important part. Developer recruiting. So, whatever the manpower we are using, so that has to be that is a very integral part of any product development, and that incurs a large cost. So, developer recruiting. Next is the training. So, whatever the manpower we are putting in for the product development, they have to be trained. Without the training, they cannot know how to develop, how to use the tools, how to develop the product, the actual product which will match with the requirements, the end user requirements. So, this sort of training has to be given to the manpower. Infrastructure requirements. So, basically the actual infrastructure what will be needed for the product development, that is very important. So, these are all the different investments that have to be put in for any of the product development. And so, this during the quality during ensurement of the high quality, the expenses have to be taken into account. So, we have to take into account that what are the basic investments that have to be put in for the product development, and accordingly the quality can be calculated, whether the productivity or the quality is compatible with what the end user has put in. So, this is one of the factor. Next is the risk minimization and the defect prevention through project management. The product development requires loose or tight project management. So, what is this loose or tight? It depends on the complexity of the product. If the product to be developed is simple enough, so it does not need a very tight project management. It can be simply executed using the simple managements. It does not need the high manpower for the project management. It does not require much skilled people for its management. So, even a single higher official can do all the things at the project level. So, this is how a simple project can be managed. But when we are talking about the complex project, so it really needs the time, and those projects which are very complex as well as are having the timelines that this work has to be done within this time boundary. So, that should have a skilled and dedicated project management part, and hence called the tightly bounded project management. So, this is how the projects can be categorized as the simple and the complex, that is related to the loose or the tight project management. So, this is how the project management plays a very important role in the product development, and which ensures the risk minimization and defect prevention. So, the placing the resources is critical and having a direct impact on investment. So, what it is saying that how the resources can be used for the product development, where and how the resources have to be used, this is very important. This is known as the resource management. So, this is very critical and having a direct impact on investment. So, developing a product with the least of the resources, with the minimum of the resources, and having the highest priority and the higher priority, this is what is known as the high return on investment. So, the placing the resources is very critical, and to manage all these things, that is known as the project management. So, manage all these issues, there are some automated tools also. Microsoft project tools is a very special case of tool used for project management in such cases. So, this is how the risk minimization and defect prevention has to be maintained. So, for knowledge, the risk minimization means, suppose we have allotted a limited number of resources, manpower for a particular product development, and somehow at certain point of time those resources are not available, the manpower is not available. So, in that case the risk minimization has to be maintained, and for that some backup of the manpower, some backup of the resources should be there, should always be there during the product development. So, this is how the risk minimization can be controlled, can be attained. Similarly, in the case of defect prevention, certain backups should be there, certain testing should be there. This is very important to minimize the defect. So, this is one of the objectives of EDLC. Next is the maximize the productivity. So, productivity is a measure of efficiency as well as the return on investment, that is the ROI. One aspect of productivity covers how many resources are utilized to build the product, how much investment is required, and how much time is taken for developing the product. So, these are certain aspects which have to be taken into account while calculating the productivity of the embedded product that we are developing. So, we have to see that how many resources are to be used, how much investment, initial, the training investment and all that we have already discussed. All these investments have to be taken into account, these 4. So, all these investments have to be considered, and how much time will be taken by the product to develop, because certain products adhere to the timelines, these are bound by the times. So, this productivity measurement is based on the total manpower efficiency. Productivity in terms of returns is said to be increased if the product is capable of yielding maximum returns with reduced investments. So, this is how the productivity has to be attained. Saving the manpower effort definitely increases the productivity. So, using the minimum of the manpower to give the maximum of the product is known as the productivity. Usage of automated tool helps. So, in this case certain automated tools have been developed for maintaining the productivity, for maximizing the productivity. So, these definitely help. Now, finally, we are talking about the phases of EDLC. So, whenever we are talking about a product development, it will go through many of the phases. So, I am discussing all the phases that a product, embedded product will go through in its life cycle. So, this is a very beautiful figure that depicting all the phases, that is the need, and then the conceptualization, then analysis, design, development and testing, deployment, support, upgrades and retirement. So, these are all the phases that are a part of the life cycle of any embedded product. So, first among these is the need phase. The need come from the individual, from the public or from a company. So, the need for the product development may be arise from any of the reasons. So, need should initiate the development life cycle. So, this is the first and foremost phase that a product goes through. That is, during this phase, this has to be understood that what is the actual need of the product that we are going to develop for the market, for the customers, for the individual. Is there an actual need or not? So, need can be visualized in any of the 3, that is the new or custom product development, product re-engineering and product maintenance. So, when we are talking about the new or the custom product development, that means that suppose we are talking about any of the handheld devices that are very much popular among the people, among the customers, and that those are widely available in the market. So, this is very beneficial if some company is focusing on this handheld device, because this is a very hot topic for the customers. This is very beneficial for the customer, this is very demanding. So, if any of the company is investing in developing some handheld device, a new form of handheld device which is targeting all the problems, all the challenges of the customers, then this is very beneficial. So, the need can be arise from the new product or the custom product development. This is what I have already discussed. Then product re-engineering means some product is already in existence in the market and some loopholes have been found out during the customer feedback, and that product has to be re-engineered. So, this is how the product re-engineering gives to the need phase. Now, the product maintenance means that according to that is a part of the customer support. So, an existing product always needs some support, customer support. So, this is the part of product maintenance. So, this is all about the need phase. Conceptualization phase, this is very important to understand the scope of the product, understand the concept of the product. It performs the cost benefit analysis and prepare the project management and risk management plans and feasibility study. So, these are all the important parts of this conceptualization phase, that is the cost benefit analysis has to be discussed, project management, how the project management will take place, this has to be discussed, how the risk management will take place will be discussed, and the feasibility study, whether the product development is feasible or not, looking at all the conditions. So, this is very important, because until and unless we understand this phase, we cannot understand. If we do not understand the concept of the product, there is no use of developing such a product. So, activities in conceptualization or the feasibility study, it will examine the need and suggest possible solutions. Cost benefit analysis, that is CBA, it is revealing and assessing the total development cost and profit expected from the product. Next is the product scope, that is it deals with the activities involved in the product to be made, that is the scope. Planning activities, that how the various plans needs to be developed first before development, like resource planning, risk management plans. These plans are very important, because as the product starts in the development phase, starts in the implementation phase, then these have to be taken care. So, all these planning activities are a part of the conceptualization phase. Now, we come to the analysis phase. The product is defined in detail with respect to the inputs, processes, outputs and interfaces at the functional level. So, all the analysis has to be performed. Activities involved in the analysis phase are, first is it specifies the business needs of the product under development, that is the analysis and documentation. Next, the requirements that need to be addressed, that is the functional capabilities like performance, operational and non-operational quality attribute, product external interface requirements, data requirements or user manuals, operational requirements, maintenance requirements and general assumptions. So, all these requirements need to be addressed in the analysis phase. Any type of analysis has to be done in this phase only, whether it is functional or non-functional. For the product requirement, data requirements, user manuals, operational requirements, all these have to be discussed in this phase. When we talk about the design phase, so it identifies the application environment and creates an overall architecture for the product. It starts with the preliminary design. It establishes the top level architecture for the product, that is it is like a black box. It defines only the inputs and the outputs. The final product is called the preliminary design document, that is the PDD. So, after PDD the end user create the detailed design. The operational manual design, maintenance manual design, product training material design, all together these makes the detailed design document. So, this is the very important phase. The designing has to be finalized, has to be documented. So, this is very important. The design has to be finalized prior to the implementation part. Now, when we talk about the development and testing phase, it means the designing the particular product into hardware and software. Development means this. So, this is as I have already discussed, that the product development is the mutual of the hardware and the software. The testing can be divided into independent testing of software and hardware, that is the unit testing, integration testing, system testing and user acceptance testing. So, unit testing means that different modules have to be tested. Integration testing, that the different modules are combined for the requirement for the functionalities, different types of functionalities, and these have to be tested. System testing, testing the functional aspects for the functional requirements of the product after integration. User acceptance testing, testing the product to meet the end user requirements. So, this is all these types of testing have to be performed in the testing phase. In the deployment phase is the process of launching the first fully functional product in the market. It is also known as the first customer shipping. In the support phase, some technical support, the customer support has to be provided for the maintenance issues, for the operational issues of the product. Activities involved in the support phase are the 24/7 supports for the product after launching, and it identifies the area of the improvement. Based upon the feedback got from the customer, the loopholes have to be find out in the product and the upgradation has to be decided. Last is upgrade phase, that is the deals with the development of upgrades, that is a new version for the existing product. During this phase, the system is subject to the design modification in major areas. So, this is very important. Depending upon the problems faced by the customer, the product always needs to be upgraded. So, this is very important. So, retirement or the disposal, that is the retirement is somewhat a gradual process. When the product becomes obsolete in the market and the much better products, much better counterparts are available in the market for the same product, then obviously the old products gets obsolete and it gets out of the market. So, this is the final phase. It is declared, that product is declared as discontinued from the market. The disposal of the product is essential. Why? Because of the increased user needs. Obviously, the needs keeps on changing. So, according to the needs, the products gets upgraded. And next is the rapid technology advancement. Maybe the technology that was used for the development of that existing product is no more existing in the market, and therefore, the product needs to be changed, needs to be discarded. So, these are all the phases of the EDLC, that is the embedded product development life cycle. Whenever the product is developed, it goes through all these phases one by one, and at the end the products get retired during its life cycle. So, this is how the product phases are completed. Thank you so much for today's lecture.